two kinds of Muslims who will deny it. One, you have Muslims who know it's true, but who will deny it because they don't think you know any better. They think you just heard this from somewhere. You heard this from some person. And so, no, of course Muhammad didn't have sex with a 9-year-old girl. That's just a myth spread by Islamophobes. No, it's not. There are I think, a little over 200 sources in the Muslim sources about Muhammad having sex with a 9-year-old girl. It's all over their sources. If we don't know that about Muhammad, we don't know anything about Muhammad, because that's as good as it gets in Islam. You've got 200 sources all saying, over 200 sources all saying the same thing.
I was walking.
Okay, so David Wood keeps bringing up the Prophet Muhammad's marriage with Aisha. He keeps saying Prophet Muhammad had sexual intercourse with a 9-year-old girl. He keeps bringing this shit. He keeps bringing this stupid shit up over and over and over again. And now he's on somebody else's platform bringing up a decades-old refuted argument. Now, let me just ask something, because I don't think David Wood becomes an atheist when he's talking about Islam. So let's just go back to the Bible. Where in the Bible, both the Old and New Testament, does it say you have to be 18 years old to get to be married and have sexual intercourse with a man? Where does it say a girl has to be 18, 20, 21, 25, 30 years old to get married and have sexual intercourse for a man? Where does it say in the Bible? Where does it say in the Bible that you have to be that a man has to marry an 18-year-old in order to consummate the marriage, or a 20-year? It doesn't say that. Where is the age limit in the Bible where it says, you have to be 18 to, or I'm sorry, a girl has to be 18 or 20 or 40 or 30 in order for consummation of marriage to occur? It doesn't say that. Nowhere in the Bible does it say does it like place an age on the statutations of marriage and consummation of marriage. So look at the inconsistency and the hypocrisy of David Wood here. He keeps bringing this up over and over and over again, and this has been refuted over and over again. So, like, since David Wood is becoming an atheist here, does he have any kind of objective standard for morality? No, he doesn't. Because the atheists cannot justify morality. They can't say there's anything right or wrong objectively. This is just one subjective opinion over the other subjective opinion. But regardless, child marriage or marriage with young girls was very common 1400 years ago. I think David Wood already acknowledges this. And another point is that, the prophet's example is marrying and consummating the marriage when the girl is mentally and physically fit for marriage. So that's the whole thing. Islam does not allow child brides and having sexual relations with children, because according to Islam, the age of marriage is when the girl is physically and mentally fit for marriage. 9-year-old girls or 6-year-old girls today, emphasis on that word today, in modern times, are not mentally and physically fit for marriage. That wasn't the case 1,500 years ago. 1,500 years ago, 6-year-old girls, 9-year-old girls were ready for marriage. They were ready for sexual intercourse. They were ready for consummation of marriage. It's because, girls matured faster back in those times. It was very common. The Prophet Muhammad was not the only man to marry a young girl back in Arabia 1,500 years ago. Everybody was doing it. Like I don't know, like 99% of the men in Arabia were marrying girls as young as 6, 7, 8, 9, etc., etc. Because, like, the thing in Islam, or according to Islamic law, a girl is fit for marriage and consummation of marriage when she's mentally and physically fit for marriage. We know Aisha was mentally and physically fit for marriage because there's a hadith in Tirmidhi which says she was mentally and physically fit at the age of 9. So that was the right time for consummation of marriage. So I don't know. I don't need to really get into like the defense here, because I don't think. Well, if we want to play this game, then we can play this game, because if you read the book of Numbers, if you read the Old Testament allowed pedophilia and allowed sex with little girls. And, if you read the Old Testament, if you read Numbers chapter 31, Judges, according to Numbers 31, Moses says, kill all the men, kill all the women who have slept with the men, but keep the young girls or virgins for yourself. If you read the commentaries on Numbers chapter 31, Moses is basically saying it's okay to take little girls as it's okay to take young virgins who are certainly the age of 9, 6 years old, 7 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, 12, whatever. It's okay to take virgins and to keep them and to marry them and have sexual intercourse with them and keep them as concubines. Numbers 31. So Numbers 31 in the book of Judges and other places in the Old Testament, pedophilia and marrying little girls and having sexual intercourse with little girls was very common in the Old Testament times. In Numbers 31, it's divinely inspired because of Moses is a prophet of God. And if God is speaking through Moses, then, you got a serious problem because the God of the Old Testament is allowing, pedophilia and marrying little girls and having sexual intercourse with little girls, according to Numbers 31, et cetera, et cetera. So you got a serious problem with the Old Testament. And the New Testament approves of the Old Testament. So you can't use that excuse, well, it's the Old Covenant. No, because the New Testament, the New Testament in 2 Timothy, in Matthew chapter 5, verse 17, says all scripture is inspired. The law, I've not come to abolish the law, but fulfill the law. Jesus says that. That means Jesus approved of the Old Testament laws. So, you can't get around the fact that that's the Old Covenant because the Bible is all inspired. It's all good for training, morality, and righteousness, according to 2 Timothy and Matthew chapter 5, verse 17, etc. So basically, the inconsistency and the hypocrisy of David Wood is astonishing. And what's even more astonishing is what's even more incredible is even Robert Spencer does not use this argument against the Prophet Muhammad. I remember reading Robert Spencer's book, The Truth About Muhammad, and even Robert Spencer admitted that marrying that the Prophet Muhammad's marriage to Aisha at the age of 6 and the consummation of the marriage at 9 was something very common back then. He argues in his book, The Truth About Muhammad, is that he doesn't have a problem with the Prophet Muhammad's marriage with Aisha at 6 years old. He doesn't have a problem with that, or the consummation at 9 years old. He doesn't have a problem. His Robert Spencer's problem is child brides in today's times, but who are marrying 6-year-old and 9-year-old girls because of the Prophet Muhammad's marriage with Aisha, or justifying it using the Prophet Muhammad's marriage with Aisha. The problem there is that any Muslim in the Middle East, in Yemen, or wherever these Muslim-dominated countries are doing child marriages, they're not following the Prophet Muhammad's example, because the Prophet Muhammad's example is marrying a young girl or consummating the marriage with a young girl who is mentally and physically fit for marriage. If any Muslim overseas or in the Middle East or in Yemen or Syria, wherever, like they're doing child marriages, they're not following Islam, because Islam does not allow, you know, marriage to immature or young girls. It allows marriage and consummation of marriage to girls who are mentally and physically fit for marriage. And we know girls today are definitely not ready for marriage until they're 18 or 20 or 21, or like when they're like a little bit older. That's the point I'm trying to make. So David Wood is just horribly inconsistent here because he doesn't understand history, he doesn't understand culture, and he doesn't understand the Bible, because the Bible allows having sex with little girls, having young virgins as sexual property, according to Numbers 31. If you read the book of Judges, it also allows, pedophilia over there. And, you have things like concubines, et cetera, et cetera. So, David Wood is just being inconsistent here. He just wants to throw mud on Islam and the Prophet Muhammad, and that's fine. Let him do it, because he gives me more content to work with. So, or he gives me content to refute. So, refuting David Wood is always it's always fun to me because he just lacks common sense. It's very easy to refute his points. So, anyways, this is just my refutation of the whole Prophet Muhammad's marriage to Aisha. I know it's not a comfortable topic to talk about. I know it makes people uncomfortable and emotional and stuff like that, but we do have logical explanations for the Prophet Muhammad's marriage to Aisha. Don't worry about it. I mean, if you want to see more disgusting things done to little girls, just read the Old Testament. Trust me, it teaches much worse things than what Islam says. So, we have to look at the Bible, and we have to just do some common sense and just use some logic and reasoning and common sense here. If David Wood becomes an atheist when he's attacking Islam, then he has no standard for morality. He has no objective standard for morality. He just has one subjective opinion over the other subjective opinion. Because if David Wood is becoming an atheist when he talks about Islam, which is most of the time he becomes an atheist when he's talking about Islam, he can't justify morality. He can't say there's anything right or wrong because he has no objective standard to say there's anything right or wrong. As an atheist, you don't have a standard, or you can't justify morality. So that's the problem with atheistic views against any religion, whether it's Christianity, Islam, the Bible, the Quran. They can't say there's anything wrong because they can't justify objective morality, or they don't have an objective standard for morality. So this is just my 2 cents about the Prophet, about David Wood and his comments on the Prophet Muhammad's marriage to Aisha. Notice how what he's saying. He's saying Prophet Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old. He keeps saying that, but in order to get like attention for himself, because we all know David Wood's the world's biggest attention whore. We know that he's an attention whore and an attention seeker. We all know this. So, he's trying to uh, get attention for himself using those kinds of words, or using those kind of, or using that kind of tactics. Well, that's fine. We can just refute him. We don't have to play that game with him. We can just refute his stuff. So, the only reason why I'm making this video so other Muslims are not swayed by his arguments, so that's the only reason why I'm making this video, so people aren't so Muslims in particular are not misled by his attacks against Islam. But anyways, this is just my 2 cents. What do you guys think? If anybody has some kind of other uh any other kind of defense for this, let me know in the comments below. Thank you.